The blackness of space stretched forever, cold and endless. A fleet of broken ships drifted through it like ghosts, their metal bodies cracked and covered with scars from war. Inside one of those ships, lights flickered weakly. The air smelled of burned wires and recycled oxygen. The people inside were called the Varin, once proud, now only survivors. Captain Sarai stood before the large viewing window, her hands pressed against the glass as she watched the stars move slowly by. Her reflection looked pale and tired, her eyes glowing faintly with the blue light of her species. She had not slept for 3 days. Around her, the command deck was silent. Only the quiet hum of damaged engines could be heard. The Varin had once ruled 100 worlds. They had cities that floated in the clouds and towers that touched the edge of the sky. But the Empire came, a ruthless force that crushed anything that did not obey. The Varin resisted. They fought for freedom, but in the end they lost. Their homeworld burned. Their seas turned black, and their people were hunted across the stars. Now only a few thousand remained, drifting in exile. Sarai turned to her second officer, a young male named Reth. His skin had lost its natural brightness, and his uniform hung loosely on his thin frame. "Status?" she asked quietly. He looked down at his screen. "Energy cells are below 12%, Captain. Food stores will not last another rotation. Some of the crew have started to lose hope." Sarai closed her eyes. "We cannot stop now." She walked to the center of the room and touched the control panel. A glowing map of the galaxy appeared, showing red zones where the Empire ruled and gray areas where nothing survived. But far beyond the borders of known space, there was one small blue mark, a forgotten world, unclaimed. "Earth," Sarai whispered. The name felt strange in her mouth. The crew looked at her. Most had heard the legends. A planet said to be the cradle of an ancient warrior race, humans. Some stories claimed they destroyed themselves long ago. Others said they still lived, hidden, unpredictable and dangerous. Reth frowned. "If they are still alive, Captain, they may not welcome us. They are known for violence," Sarai nodded. "Yes, but they are also known for mercy. And we have run out of other choices." The room was silent again. Then one by one the crew nodded. They were too tired to fear any more. Hope was a fragile thing, but it was all they had left. Sarai gave the command. "Set course for Sol. Engage the last of our engines." The fleet began to move slowly. The stars stretched into white lines as the ships entered faster than light travel. The sound of the engines deepened, shaking the walls. Somewhere in the back of the ship, a child cried softly, asking his mother if they would find a new home. The mother did not answer. She only held him tighter. Days passed like whispers. The fleet drifted through dead sectors, past the ruins of other civilizations that had once shone brightly and then vanished. The Varin prayed that they would not be next. Some began to sing old songs to keep their spirits alive. Others sat in silence, watching the stars, remembering their burning homeworld. One night, as Sarai walked alone through the observation deck, she saw something new on the horizon, a distant golden light that grew larger and larger. She knew what it was. "Prepare to exit warp," she ordered. The stars snapped back into focus, and before them appeared a glowing planet wrapped in blue oceans and white clouds. Earth. The sight filled the entire screen. For a moment, everyone on the ship forgot their hunger, their fear, their pain. They stared at it as if it were a miracle. "Life," Reth whispered. "So much life." Sarai felt a strange warmth in her chest. She had expected a dead world, but Earth was alive, bright, and full of energy. The sensors lit up with signals, showing signs of civilization, cities, machines, satellites orbiting the planet. Humans still existed. Her communications officer turned, his voice trembling. "Captain." "They see us." On Earth, alarms began to sound. Satellites locked onto the unknown fleet entering their space. Governments scrambled to identify the intruders. Some feared invasion, others hoped for peace. Across the planet, screens lit up with breaking news, unidentified crafts entering Earth's orbit. Inside the Varin flagship, tension grew. The crew waited for a response, for any sign that the humans might listen. Sarai stepped forward and activated the transmitter. "This is Captain Sarai of the Varin fleet," she said. her voice soft but steady. "We come in peace. Our world is gone. Our people have no home. We seek only shelter and the chance to live." Her message echoed across space, carried on radio waves toward Earth. Then, silence. Every eye turned to the communication screen, waiting. Seconds felt like years. Finally, a voice answered. It was human, firm, cautious, and deep. "This is Commander Elias Grant of Earth Defense Command. You are entering restricted space. State your intentions clearly." Sarai swallowed hard. "We are refugees. We mean no harm. We ask only for your mercy." Another long silence. The crew looked at Sarai with fear. If the humans chose to attack, their ships could not survive even one battle. The engines were nearly dead. Then Elias spoke again. "Your transmission has been received. Do not approach further. Wait for our decision." The connection ended. Reth exhaled slowly. "Do you think they will help us?" Sarai looked out at the blue planet once more. The sunlight shimmered across her tired face. "I do not know," she whispered. "But if there is still kindness in the universe, it must be here." The fleet stayed in orbit, drifting silently above the Earth. Below them, a new story was about to begin, one that would decide the fate of two worlds. And as the stars turned slowly around them, Captain Sarai closed her eyes and prayed, not to gods, but to humanity itself. The blue planet spun silently below the waiting fleet. From orbit, Earth looked peaceful, oceans shimmering under sunlight, clouds drifting like soft blankets. But inside the human command centers, there was no peace. Sirens echoed, alerts flashed red, and nervous faces crowded around glowing screens. Commander Elias Grant stood in the war room of the United Earth Defense Command, his hands clasped behind his back. He had seen strange things during his years in space, but never this. Hundreds of alien ships now floated at the edge of Earth's atmosphere. Some were broken, some barely alive, and none carried weapons in attack mode. Any movement? Elias asked quietly. "Negative, sir," replied his officer. "They're just waiting," Elias frowned. "Waiting for what?" "A response. A miracle." News channels across the world were already in chaos. Civilians flooded the streets, staring at the skies as silver dots glimmered faintly like new stars. Some people prayed, others shouted in fear. Governments were split. Some demanded immediate strikes, fearing an invasion. Others, remembering humanity's long history of war and loss, called for restraint. The council chamber buzzed with argument. Holograms of world leaders flickered above the round table. "They're aliens," said one general sharply. "We cannot risk our safety for them." "They said they are refugees," replied a scientist from the lunar colony. "Their transmissions show no aggression. We cannot trust unknown species. What if this is a trap?" Elias listened, his eyes fixed on the feed showing the alien flagship. He remembered the voice that had spoken earlier. Calm, fragile. It did not sound like a conqueror. It sounded like someone who had lost everything. Finally, the president of the Earth Council spoke. "Commander Grant, you will make contact again, face to face, but under no circumstances will you allow them to enter Earth's atmosphere." Elias nodded. "Understood." Moments later, his ship, the Vigilant, rose from the launch bay, cutting through the dark sky. It was a sleek craft built for diplomacy and war alike. As it climbed, the curve of the planet fell away, replaced by the glittering emptiness of space. The alien fleet grew larger on the screen. The lead vessel, a massive orb with shining lines across its hull, glowed faintly blue. It looked old, tired but still proud. "Open the channel," Elias ordered. A soft hum filled the air. Then on the screen, a figure appeared. A tall woman with glowing eyes and strange silver markings on her skin. She looked both alien and human at the same time, like someone carved from light and sorrow. "I am Captain Sarai of the Varin," she said gently. "You are Elias Grant?" "Yes, Commander of Earth Defense." They studied each other in silence for a long moment. Neither spoke of power or weapons. Instead, they looked like two souls trying to measure trust. Sarai finally spoke. "Our home was destroyed by the Empire. We have no world left. We do not ask for land or conquest, only a place where our children can breathe again. Elias felt a weight in his chest. He had seen refugees before, human ones, from burned colonies and failed wars. But this was different. This was an entire species asking for mercy. He asked quietly, "Why come to us? There are hundreds of other systems." Sarai's gaze did not waver, because the humans were said to be unpredictable, capable of both cruelty and compassion. "We gambled on compassion." The bridge was silent. Even the crew members felt the emotion in her words. Elias leaned forward slightly. "Your ships are damaged. You will not survive long in orbit. If we allow you to land, there will be panic. People fear what they do not understand." Sarai nodded slowly. "Then let us stay on your moon. We can repair our ships, gather strength, and prove our intentions. We will accept any terms." The request was simple, but the decision was not. Elias sent the proposal back to the council. The debate lasted hours. Some called it suicide. Others said it was humanity's chance to show that they had finally evolved beyond fear. While they argued, Elias looked out the viewport toward the alien fleet. Through the reflection of his helmet visor, he could almost see the faces of those aboard, the tired, the hungry, the scared. He thought of his own daughter sleeping safely on Earth, and he wondered what kind of world she would inherit if humanity turned its back on others in need. The council finally returned an answer. Permission granted. Limited settlement rights on the lunar surface under Earth supervision. Any act of aggression will result in termination, Elias exhaled. It was not trust, but it was a beginning. He opened the channel once more. "Captain Sarai, the council has agreed to your request. You may land on the far side of our moon. We will monitor all activity. Do you accept?" Sarai closed her eyes. When she spoke, her voice trembled slightly. "We accept. Thank you, Commander. You have given my people something we thought we would never have again, a tomorrow." The communication ended. Hours later, the world watched as streaks of light crossed the sky. The alien ships descended toward the moon, glowing faintly against the darkness. Crowds on Earth stared upward, some in fear, others in awe. Children pointed and whispered, "Are they our friends?" Elias stood at the observation window as the first ship touched down on the lunar surface. Dust rose like silver mist. He thought about what this meant. Two species sharing a fragile hope. Behind him, one of his officers spoke softly. "Sir, do you really think they mean no harm?" Elias watched the silent ships resting on the moon and answered quietly, "I think they've already seen more harm than they ever deserved." And somewhere above that quiet world, among stars that had seen countless wars and exiles, humanity made its choice, not of fear, but of fragile kindness that would change the galaxy forever. Days turned into weeks after the Varin landed on the far side of the moon. Their silver ships glowed faintly against the grey dust, like a quiet city built from starlight. Humanity watched them constantly. Satellites, drones, and observation teams recording every move. To most humans, they were still strangers, too mysterious to trust and too fragile to hate completely. Commander Elias Grant became the bridge between the two worlds. Every day, he received reports from the moon base, some hopeful, some alarming. The Varin were peaceful, yes, but they were also secretive. They built structures using materials no human had ever seen. They worked at night, humming strange energy into the air, as if repairing invisible wounds. In the markets of Earth, people argued about them. Some said the aliens were a blessing, a chance to learn, to evolve. Others said they were liars, waiting for the right moment to strike. On the moon, Captain Sarai felt the tension too. Her people were grateful to be alive, yet they could feel the eyes of the humans everywhere. "We are living inside a cage," one young Varin told her. Sarai understood. She knew what it meant to be watched with suspicion. But she also knew patience was their only path forward. At night, she would stand near the edge of the lunar horizon, staring at the blue glow of Earth. "We are so close," she whispered, and yet still so far from being one of them. One evening, Commander Elias visited the moon base for the first time since the landing. His ship touched down gently on the grey dust. The Varin gathered to watch him, their bright eyes following every movement. Sarai approached him, her expression calm but curious. "Welcome to our home, Commander," she said softly. "It is small, but it is peace," Elias nodded, looking around. "It's more than peace. It's survival." They walked together through the corridors of the alien outpost. Elias noticed how the walls shimmered faintly with energy, almost alive. The air was filled with a quiet hum, like a heartbeat. Sarai spoke gently. "We are rebuilding what was lost. Not just our technology, but our trust in others." Elias glanced at her. "And how do you feel about us?" She paused, then answered, cautious hope. "You could have destroyed us. Instead, you gave us air to breathe. That means something." Before Elias could reply, an alarm echoed through the base. Lights flickered. A Varin officer ran toward Sarai, panic in his voice. "Captain, one of our cargo ships has been destroyed." Elias' face hardened. "Destroyed? How?" "An explosion," the officer said. "It happened while the ship was carrying medical supplies. We lost 12. Sarai's hands tightened. "Show me the footage." A screen lit up, showing a transport ship leaving the base, and then a sudden flash of fire tearing it apart. The energy signature was unfamiliar but not alien. It was human. Elias's jaw clenched. "Who authorized that launch route?" "No one," Sarai replied quietly. "Someone wanted this to happen." The investigation began immediately. On Earth, the news spread like wildfire. Alien ship destroyed. Human involvement suspected. Riots broke out in some cities, with people shouting for the aliens to leave. Others demanded justice for the dead. Elias returned to Earth to face the council. "Someone on our side planted that device," he said firmly. "If we do not find the truth, we will lose everything we have built." But not everyone in the council wanted to listen. "Maybe they did it themselves," one general argued. To gain sympathy, Elias slammed his hand on the table. "They came to us in peace. I looked into their eyes." That was not a lie. The room fell silent. For a moment, even the screens seemed to hold their breath. Meanwhile, in orbit beyond Mars, something stirred in the dark. The sensors of the lunar outpost picked up faint energy readings, large, organized, and moving fast. The signature was familiar to Sarai. Her face turned pale as she stared at the data. "The Empire," she whispered. "They found us." She opened a transmission to Earth. "Commander Grant, this is Sarai. They are here. The ones who destroyed my world. They followed us." Elias's heart sank. "How many ships?" "Dozens," Sarai said. "Enough to burn the solar system if they wish." Elias looked out the window of his station, watching the stars tremble. Humanity had never faced such a threat before. Their weapons were strong, but not enough to fight an empire that had conquered galaxies. Still, Elias said the only words that felt right. "You came to us for help, Sarai. You will not face them alone." Sarai's eyes softened. "If you do this, they will come for you, too." Elias smiled faintly. "Then let them come." As the stars darkened and the distant flashes of warships filled the edge of space, humanity stood at a crossroads. Fear or courage, division or unity. The next day, every screen on Earth displayed the same message from Commander Elias Grant. "They came to us as refugees. We will stand with them as allies." The words echoed across continents and oceans. Some cheered, some wept, and some prayed. But for the first time in history, humanity's strength was not in its weapons. It was in its heart, and above, the stars began to move again, carrying the storm that would decide the fate of both species. The storm came silently at first. It began with faint pulses on the radar, tiny flashes of light near Jupiter, like the blink of a predator's eye in the dark. But when the full fleet appeared, the sky itself seemed to split apart. Hundreds of colossal ships, black as ash, glided through space. The banners of the Empire shimmered on their hulls, red and merciless. From the lunar base, Captain Sarai watched the readings grow stronger. The sight froze her blood. "They have brought their war machines," she whispered. "The same ones that burned our cities." On Earth, alarms wailed across every station. Commander Elias Grant stood at the central command hub, his face pale but steady. Around him, Officers shouted data, engineers prepared orbital cannons, and pilots scrambled toward their ships. "This is it," Elias said calmly. "They're not just after the Varin. They're testing us. They want to see if humanity still stands for anything." Across the moon, the Varin prepared their defenses too. They had little left. Broken ships, damaged shields, and weapons designed for defense, not war. But they refused to run. Sarai stood before her people and said, "We are guests on their world. We will fight to protect it as our own." The message spread quickly. Humans and aliens worked side by side, sharing technology and courage. Engineers exchanged data across language barriers. Soldiers shared armor plates and energy cells, and scientists fused alien shields with human plasma cannons. For the first time in history, two different species prepared for war together. Then came the silence before the attack. The Empire fleet reached orbit, its main ship looming like a floating city. Its commander, Lord Cathar, appeared on a transmission, tall, cold, his voice echoing through every channel. "You shelter criminals," Cathar said, his eyes gleaming. "Hand them over and your planet will be spared." Elias stood before the camera, his jaw tight. "No, we will not hand over those who came to us in peace," Cathar sneered. "Then you will burn with them." The transmission ended, and the first blasts tore through the void. The Empire's ships unleashed waves of plasma fire, burning through the darkness like red storms. The Earth's orbital defense cannons roared to life, sending blue beams slicing through the sky. The moon's surface shook as explosions rained down. Sarai commanded from her ship, voice steady even as alarms screamed. "Raise the energy shields! Protect the civilians!" Human fighters darted through the chaos, small, fast, fearless. Alien drones followed in elegant formations, moving with precision. Together they struck back. The first enemy cruiser went down in flames, breaking apart as cheers filled the radio channels. Elias's voice echoed across the fleet. "For Earth, for the Varin. Hold the line!" Hours passed like lifetimes. The battle spread from the moon to the edge of Earth's orbit. Whole ships vanished in bursts of light. Pieces of metal drifted like dying stars. Inside the chaos, Elias' ship was hit. The bridge filled with smoke. Damage report. He shouted, "Main reactor failing! Shields collapsing!" He turned to his crew. "If we fall fighting!" At that moment, Sarai's fleet intercepted the next attack. Her flagship took the hit meant for Elias' vessel. The explosion rocked her ship, fire spreading through the corridors. Still, she smiled faintly. "He must live," she whispered. Elias saw the flash from his viewport. "Sarai!" he shouted. But the channel was dead. Her ship drifted, burning, toward the darkness. With her last strength, Sarai sent one final transmission. Her voice was faint but filled with calm. "Elias, remember this. Mercy is never weakness. It is the courage to care when others do not." Her ship exploded, lighting the stars one final time. Elias clenched his fists. "All ships, focus fire on the command vessel." What happened next became legend. Humanity and the surviving Varin combined their weapons in one last, desperate strike. The sky turned white. The Empire's flagship cracked, its engines collapsing inward. Then silence. Pure, endless silence. The Empire retreated, their ships vanishing into hyperspace. The stars grew still again. On Earth, the people waited, afraid to breathe. Then came the message, enemy retreat confirmed. Humanity stands. Cheers erupted across the world. On the moon, soldiers, human and Varin alike, fell to their knees, exhausted and trembling. Elias returned to the damaged lunar base, walking through corridors filled with smoke and ash. He found Sarai's insignia among the wreckage of her ship, a small silver crest shaped like a star. He held it tightly in his hand. Standing before a window that looked toward Earth, Elias whispered, "You wanted a home, Sarai. Now you have one." In the weeks that followed, the world began to rebuild. Humanity honored the fallen Varin, and the surviving aliens chose to stay, not as guests, but as partners. Together they built new colonies, blending their knowledge and their dreams. A monument was placed on the moon, carved in both human and Varan script. It read, "When mercy crossed the stars, the universe changed forever, and somewhere far beyond, in the quiet dark, the stars seemed to burn a little brighter, as if remembering the night when two species fought, not for power, but for the right to call each other family."